Hey everybody, it's MedTech67 again, and behind me I have another lovely Kraken wagon, 2017 Ford Transit. It needs a few things. It is due for its transmission fluid service, which on the Transit is just a hoot and a holler of fun. And then we also need to replace the catalytic converters. They have gone out, and surprisingly enough, these are the MagnaFlow catalytic converters that I've put on a few of my trucks because they're super easy to put on without dropping the carriage. And I'm honestly surprised that they went out already. I don't know what it is about the 3.7 that just loves to trash catalytic converters. I talk to guys who work on F-150s and other Transits with the 3.7 in them, and it's like the only issue that the 3.7 has in the Transit is catalytic converters. Don't know why, but it is. So it's a pricey thing to do, but compared to the problems that the EcoBoost has, I guess it's not as bad. If I lived in a place where I could get away with it, I'd probably delete the damn things, but this is an ambulance, so we got to keep it on the level. So if you're going to do this, it is a little bit of a bear to do with jack stands and jacks. If you had a lift, that sure makes things a lot nicer. You can do it with jack stands and jacks. I did it before we got this lift, which has been saving my life. You're going to need to get the vehicle as high in the air as you can, and I'm going to show you the lift points here in a bit that you're going to need to lift further back on the actual channel that runs down the whole length of the chassis, as opposed to those easy jack points that are easy to put a jack stands on that go on the transmission crossmember, because the transmission crossmember is going to need to come out. Well, yes, it is going to need to come out for catalytic converters. You don't have to take it out just to service transmission fluid. So we're going to be doing a couple of videos all in one here. I'll put some links for timestamps to skip forward if you don't want to watch the catalytic converters or you're just here for the transmission. But something that this vehicle is going to need is lower A-frames, because the front K-member has to be dropped out. And the lower A-frames on these, the rearward bolts that hold in the K-member go straight up through the lower A-frames, and they always get seized in those bushings. I don't live in a salty state. We haven't had but 1 or 2 snows since this thing has been on the road, and they're seized. I've had trucks with less than 60,000 miles on them, never seen salt before in their life, and those bolts will seize in there. You'll probably see when I take these out, water will go everywhere because they like to hold water. If I had one of these and I bought one of these brand new, the first thing I would do is go get 2 more bolts, because they're torqued to yield just like everything on these damn things. I'd zip them out, put some anti-seize on the new ones on the shank, and then put them back in, torque them to spec. That way I don't have this problem later, because these A-frames are $130 a pop. So we're going to get started on this one. Again, doing catalytic converters, transmission fluid service, and probably low A-frames along with it. And more than likely, I mean, if I had to bet my paycheck on it, we would. All right, let's get started. Next thing we need to do, you don't need to do a lot under the hood. Well, let's get this out of the way now. Put it on here. Right back here at the end of the valve cover, this guy right here, that is your Bank 1 Sensor 1 O2 sensor. It gets held right there by a clip into the back of the engine, and just undo that guy right there and just let it hang. Pro tip, if you have these stupid chrome covered sockets, get you a 22 millimeter instead of a 21 millimeter. That way they don't stick in your socket. Next step, we're going to take that nut right off the lower ball joint. Pray to your dear and fluffy Lord that it comes off just fine. Hey, there's an advantage to living in the South. Next step we're going to do is we're going to take a floor jack. We're going to set it right up underneath that ball joint stud. We're going to compress it just a hair. Give it just a little bit of movement upwards. Next if you're a man or woman of religion, do a short prayer, maybe even perform an exorcism, and hope that when we hit this control arm right here, she'll pop right off. Power of Christ compels you. It works every time if you do the exorcism. Next, make sure both wheels are pointed forward. Make sure your steering wheel is centered. And then we're going to run our seatbelt through the middle spoke right here and down there. Next, drive to Dearborn, find the person who made that ding so annoying, stab them in the eye with this key. Next, we're going to come up underneath here, our 10 and our 8 mil, because it's Ford. You could fight your way through zombified Dearborn, Michigan with nothing but a 10 and an 8 millimeter. First, we're going to take, I don't think I need the 8 millimeter here. You just need a 10. Just need a 10. Listen to your first instincts. We're going to take these guys off. This is the boot that goes around the steering shaft. This right here is why we immobilize the steering wheel, because once we unhook this guy, that steering column is free to spin as she pleases. And then say bye-bye clock spring, steering angle sensor, you gotta recalibrate that and all that. Sort of awesomely comes out when I'm making a video. Whoever lifting something heavy, never to be found. My God, I'm making a video, poof, magically appears. And he's like, are you talking to yourself? The astute among you might be wondering why I'm not using an air ratchet. And there's a very good reason why. I suck at planning. So, I'll get you past this part. We're going to take these two guys out, and then we're going to take that bolt out right there. Ford says you need to throw that guy away, because it's got its own Loctite on it, and need to get a new one. But it's not torque to yield, so if you want to wire brush it off and put some heavy grade Loctite on there, you can. So after you get that guy loosened out, take him out, and if you don't live in the Great White North, just reach in here, pull that guy straight up, and set her to the side. And this boot will come straight up and off the old steering shaft. And now we're going to lift this guy a little bit higher into the air, just to make it easy on the old back. Now that we're a more manageable height, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this nut off. We're going to pop our tie rod out. We're going to take off this guy right here. It's got an Allen head in the middle. This is your sway bar in link. It's got an Allen head in the middle that'll hold it to keep it from spinning inside the housing. So you're going to need a wrench to do that one. A ratcheting wrench really comes in handy. And then that'll be it. We're going to do that on each side. For those of you not familiar with the Oklahoma area, it snows every time George Bush wins a spelling bee. Suffice it to say, not very often. So salts, it's just not near as big of a concern here. So they put this hex head on here, which is good for holding it there while you torque it down. But what it's really good for is as a sacrificial end, so you can afford to hit that guy with a hammer a few times. So a little lube in there. We'll see if the gods favor us today. Don't send me any hate mail from the north. It's just the way it is down here. I understand you probably would have gone through 2 divorces and a few dead blows and had to buy an extra tie rod end if you live in the Rust Belt. I get it. Alright, well, we got our sway bar end links off. Zoom you guys out a bit. Got our sway bar end links off. Pro tip, put the nuts where they go so you don't lose them, even though I'm pretty sure Ford says you're probably supposed to throw that one away. I know you're for sure supposed to throw that one away, which we are. They're a one-time use fastener. Everything else is good to stay here. Now we're just going to take her up in the air and do all the stuff underneath. Alright, so we're basically going to start from the front and work our way back. Now that I'm under here, I see evidence of a leak. 9-to-1 says it's that crappy fluid reservoir bottle. I pretty much always plan on replacing one when it comes in here because they're such a piece of crap. Oh yeah, let's see if I can zoom you in here. If you look, you can see the hoses right underneath the reservoir bottle are wet with coolant. So I mean, 10-to-1, it's the bottle. I mean, it's already yellowed, it's cracked, they're crap. But they run down and they'll hit this frame, you know, this crossmember right here. You can see the coolant right here. And they'll drop down onto this shroud and they'll run along here. Zoom you guys back out. And they'll leave a line in the driveway all the way across the front, and you'll think it's a radiator. 10-to-1 says it's a coolant reservoir bottle. They're so common to go out. I keep one on the bench. Look, that little guy. That is Ford part number Bravo Kilo 21 8 Kilo 218 Alpha Hotel. So yeah, very common part to go out on these. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at the front. We are going to undo these 10mm bolts, and then there is one up inside right there on each side, and we're going to take off this little front valence panel, I think is what it's called. See a long extension for this guy. Something I forgot to tell you is there is a little plastic clip right here that holds on to your AC line. You want to undo that guy before you go yanking and pulling on her. Got to find something better to organize the old plier drawer. Could be just because I'm on video, it takes forever to find the part you're looking for. Just a pair of push pin pliers. They double as nipple pinchers. Alright, we'll pull this on. Oh man, I'm definitely going to get soaked with antifreeze. Here she is, coated in coolant. Now, we're going to remove these 4 bolts. Oh, hello, little guy. Missing one. These guys. And then those are all 13mm. And we got 10mm back here on the subframe. We'll take those guys off and get those out of the way. Those are not 10mm. They're all 13mm. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing in this business. Should have gone to proctology school. Somebody's getting ear raped. That whole thing just ain't got the beans. Alright, we're back under here now. Now that the air compressor stopped. One thing you don't want to forget is this line is secured to the K-member right here with a T30. You're going to want to get that guy out of there. You don't want to be trying to drop this K-member and realize you forgot this guy, because then it's all up in the air and you got to go scramble to get a T30 and get this thing loose. So yeah, get this guy right now. Just get it out of there, flip this little bracket up out of the way, and so you don't lose your screw. Just pop it right back there in its spot. Next, we're going to come over here, grab my light. As you can see, our front cover has obviously been leaking, like all of the 3.7 and 3.5s. It's probably leaking right there, right up underneath the AC compressor, right in that little bend in the timing cover. But for right now, we're not going to focus on it. We're going to have to undo this line here, and then see if I can get you a shot of it. Let me get this guy out of the way. Right up in there. Huh, I appear to not be the first one in here, because that is a worm clamp. Huh, wonder why someone put that there. Well, we're taking off the spring clamp to the left of it for the power steering cooler, and we're going to fish that line back, and then we're going to take this guy off right here. It's a 10 mil, and we're going to fish these lines back and over this cross member. That way when we drop the K member, it all comes down with it. So you're going to want to get you something to catch all the fluid that's going to come out of the power steering. That's an O-ring fitting. As soon as we pull it out, she's going to drain. Light out of the way a bit. Put her nut back on there. We're going to go ahead and let the power steering fluid just drain. But Matco has got me, so I say Matco has got me, I bought one of these. Coolest little invention ever. Here. It's just a little clamp that forks over the fitting and has a little rubber ball on that end that will keep it from losing fluid. Super handy, especially when you have to stand under these lines, and we're going to put one of those on that fitting up there too. Alright, we got our clamp off there. We're going to pull that line down. Again, you're going to want to put your drain pan underneath here, because fluid is going to drain out of that power steering cooler. Okay, if you're still with us, congratulations, you made it this far. What we're going to do now is, see, I just have this line plugged off with some paper towel because it's a rubber line. We're going to fish these guys over the cross members. They're held together by some little keepers that just come apart. There's plenty of room up there, especially because this is not a turbo. We'll just fish these guys on back and let them hang. This one, see, I'll grab you guys and show you this. The one has a spring clamp on it, sorry, actually goes through this cross member here. Let me flip you around so you can get a better view of that. You can see this one, the one that does not have the fitting that goes into the power steering pump. It actually goes in between that little bracket there and the cross member, where the other one goes up and over it. Here comes the part for you guys that live in the Great White North that have been screaming this entire video saying, if this guy doesn't have to fight with one bolt the entire time, I'm going to drive down to Oklahoma and shoot him in the face. Because no matter where you live, this bolt right here and the one on the other side they are always frozen, always. If the vehicle is like over 50,000 miles old, this bolt is seized inside the bushing for the A-frame. This one and the one on the other side are the rear 2 bolts for the lower K-frame, and then there's 2 more that you get to. It's, how do people do this? Point to things on camera. This guy right here, you get to it through this hole right here. That one is never an issue. These are always an issue. So let's see how she do. Power of Christ compels you. Told you. Chances are we're gonna have to lower this thing down and fight with her a bit. This is why I said you're probably going to need A-frames. This one is actually coming out pretty well. Maybe, just maybe, I doubt it. The old impact can take over from here.
Are you ready for your close-up?
Oh, it's time for my COVID test? Yeah, I'm gonna get my nose swabbed. Well, just got my COVID test done. That was not fun. Get a nice big long Q-tip up the nose. They say, close your eyes, it'll lessen the discomfort. I'm pretty sure that's something Bill Cosby said. Keep it together, man. Keep it together. I think it's done. Yeah, the nuts loose out of there. That's as far as it goes. You have to hammer that bolt out of the A-frame. On to the next one. Let's see how that goes. I don't know why I'm trying with this thing, but why not? Yeah, that's a big old negatory on the cost of that machine there, Red Ryder. Alright, let's see if we can get this one off here. Pull you guys in a little closer. Let's see what we can do to her. And for those wondering, because we're an EMS company, we just had an outbreak of COVID. So everybody here is getting tested. And until they get tested, they have to stay home, except for essential personnel. Me. That's basically just me. Okay. You can get right there on that bushing and hit her. I've already sprayed this with penetrate, if you're wondering. Okie dokie. Alright, some things have transpired without you being able to see them. Got to keep this as much of a family show as I can, or at least a little less R-rated. There were a lot of words being said you don't want to hear. As you can see, what's happening here is the center of the bushing is just spinning now. The rubber's torn loose, and there's no way, you know, peace was never an option. This is the way it's got to happen. So that's why I say probably gonna need new A-frames. Now that we've got those guys broke loose to a point where it only takes a mild amount of superhuman strength to spin them out, we're going to get a transmission jack underneath here, and we are going to support the K-member. You can do this at home with just a regular jack and, you know, a friend. Bring beer. But we're going to use transmission jacks. It's a lot safer and easier that way. But before we do that, we are going to loosen these 4 18mm bolts on each side here. We're going to take out the front ones, leave the back ones loose, and for right now just turn these guys to the right so they're out of our way for us to drop this K-member. So take our 18, get some air. There's gonna be water in here, I bet. Yeah. There's always water coming out of these guys. There's a lot of dust in that one. And like I said, now we're just going to loosen this guy. It's always something. It's always something. It's always that one. Again, you always want to throw it if it lets go. Don't want to catch it right away, it's bad luck. Is that enough? Nope. This is not enough. Oh, Jesus. This one's going well. The guys from the north are like, I don't even want to hear it. It's the first ones you've had to fight with this whole time. So I guess I should just count my blessings. This guy should just knock on out of our way like that. Now, this whole K member can just drop down. We're going to have to deal with this later when we do the catalytic converter, but we'll just get out of the way now. Alright, all our bolts are pretty much broke loose, so we're going to bring in our tranny jack. This is the fun part. Try to get it on the flat spots there, not dealing with bolts. There we go. I'm going to take a C-clamp right here. You can do another one over here if you want, but it's really overkill. This is not a big piece, so one should get her done. So I've got the front ones loosened up, and then the problem is because this sleeve is seized to this bolt here, it's trying to push the whole thing down as I unthread it out. So I've got the front dropped down a bit. So now that the front's dropped down a bit, I'm going to keep working on this bolt. About ran out. I think we are. Let's loosen the front a bit. So if you get to these front subframe bolts, through these holes here. Alright. Got the old indexable pry bar. Let's see if she comes down now. Yeah, that one's loose. And I think, yeah, they're all loose. So, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Never goes that way. It's always more stressy, depressy, lemon zesty. We'll take it down nice and slow. Sometimes it gets kind of rehung on the ball joints. here is we're not all the way out on that nut yet. So I thought it was out. Alright, now it is. It's a captured nut up inside the frame, so it's got some movement. It kind of looked like it was out, but it wasn't. Just let her come down on her own, nice and slow. Make sure you're not testing the tensile strength of anything unintentionally. And looks like we're good, so I'll go ahead and speed her up. And I'll get you guys a good view of what we're going to have to do here now. Alright. A little bit quicker, please. Skip ahead a bit, Brother Maynard. This thing does not go down quickly. There's not a lot of weight on it. Alright. Here we are. Let's wheel this thing away. Exit stage left. Alright. As you can see here, this bushing took some damage. Just us trying to get it out of there. That's from me with the air hammer hitting that sleeve. There's a metal sleeve in there. And that got it to pop loose. You can see she still doesn't want to come out. We might have some luck with that one. But this one is hard seized in there. And you can see all the water and stuff. I'm sorry, I'll get you in frame there. You can see all the water that's captured inside here. It builds up inside here. And it just seizes itself onto that bushing, and the only way you can get it out is let that center sleeve spin, and it destroys the bushing on the way out. So what we do, we take the Sawzall, we come in right here on this gap, cut it there, and we lift a little bit, and we get a Sawzall right underneath here, and then that cuts it in half for us, and then we pull the top and the bottom out. We had to replace these bolts anyway because they are one-time use fasteners. But that's how we're going to have to get these A-frames out. And this is why I told you to plan on replacing your A-frames. This right here is why I had you take that O2 sensor off. That's the back of the engine there. It was just sitting right up there. You can see its retainer has done broke. This is your upstream O2 sensor on bank 1. This is your downstream. And apparently it, I don't know, wouldn't fit, I guess. I don't know. And this is where the O2 sensor connects for this guy. Go ahead and pull that guy off and we'll snip this little zip tie. And then on this side, our downstream attaches right here on the wiring harness for the transmission. And it wants to fight me a bit. It snapped and slid back, but doesn't want to give up the goods. There we go. That's the downstream, and over here, the upstream is a bit of a bear to get back on. See if I can get you a better angle here. It's right here on this wiring harness, right behind the cylinder head. There we go. Slips right off there. Like I said, these are the MagnaFlow converters. I am not going back with MagnaFlow converters because I've had 2 sets start tripping catalyst below efficiency codes. And I've checked the O2 sensors and they're working just fine. I think it's just these catalytic converters aren't as efficient as the stock models, and it keeps tripping codes, and that's why she's getting replaced. So two 15mm studs there, or nuts on the studs there. Two over here. That top one can be a bit of a bear to get to. You're going to need some wobbles and extensions. We're going to have to support the rear of the transmission and remove this transmission cross member, which is going to be fun because this one bolt over here is seized on me. And then you have two 13mm that will pop off there, and the catalytic converter comes on up. See if I can do this one-handed. Like I said, some universal joints come in real handy. So our O2 sensors are unhooked. This one's pretty much a straight shot. Alright, so this guy is loose. Just to avoid trips to the hospital, I'm going to leave this one on a couple turns, and this guy on a couple turns, just so when we get this guy loose, it doesn't fall and give me a concussion. Now we're going to get these 13s out of here, maybe. Always throw the nut. Keep that in mind. Or the bolt. I'm going to level with you. I'm going to try to cheat here. The bolt, she sees. She doesn't want to come out. So I can get her to spin the other way. They hit the spot where he wants to stop. So instead of risking breaking the bolt inside of a capture nut inside the frame, I'm going to see if it's possible to snake this catalytic converter back, down, and then forward. So you'll get to see it live if this doesn't work. Zip ties out of the way. Get this other one loose. Just have to be smart and go put the nut back in. And jam it in there. That's got her. Yep. What?
I miss you and all your wonderful puns.
All my wonderful puns.
Have a great day.
You too. I try to be a funny guy. Yep. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's gonna be a thing. Never tried it before. It's probably a reason why. Probably because it won't friggin' work. I cannot get enough forward tilt around this guy. So we're just gonna have to try to get that guy loose. Got it loose, by the way. It only took about 543 square words, so it's a victory in my book. So we're going to get these two bolts out, support the transmission and drop this cross member on down. There are 18s in there, by the way. Jack, this is everybody. Everybody meet Jack. Jack's a quiet guy. He doesn't talk that much. He is really good at bashing me in the forehead, but most of the time I've got it coming. Go to the next one. That'll be an asshole. I love these kind of jacks. They're really good at not working great. Got it right there on the gasket surface. Just enough to lift her off there. These were 21s, right? No, they're 18s. Chocked full of rust. Oh, I have chosen poorly, because this thing's going to try to drop that whole pipe and this now. This is gonna be a turd sandwich. You guys will get to witness this concussion live. Come on, come to daddy. Look at that, like a pro. Oh, it's going off the rails. Alright. Cross members out of the way. But we're about to put it right back in the way because we want to have room to drain this transmission. So we're just going to put it up on each side with one bolt, let this guy rest back down on it. And honestly, this is not heavy. I can lift this with my hands. But you can do this with a floor jack and jack stand. But I'm going to put this cross member back in and we'll get to draining this transmission. Our catalytic converter should be here soon, hopefully. Got that cross member back in there. You can now let Jack screw back off. That's what Jack likes to do. Jack likes to sit in the corner, not really do much. Anytime I ask for help, he hits me in the head. Fun fact, the F-150s have a drain pan, a drain bolt, a drain plug. Jesus Christ, words are hard. It has a drain plug in their transmission. Same exact transmission that's in an F-150. No drain plug for you. So it's down to just dripping. So we're going to get these last few bolts while we hold it up there, lower it down, and try not to make a gigantic mess. It's always good to bring an extra shirt for it. down a bit. Let that do its thing for a second. Alright, we'll take this last bolt. Alright, before muscle failure sets in, bring the pan down. And look at that. No tranny fluid shower today. Like our filter came down with its O-ring. We'll still double check the board just to be sure. There's our reusable gasket. Check this guy out, make sure it's still indeed reusable. Any tears in that rubber and she is no longer reusable. Which can happen sometimes, not very often, but it can happen. This one looks pretty good. Amazing. All the things that are one-time use on these vehicles. By God, reuse this gasket. Ran the rest of that pan there. Don't see any kibbles and bits at the bottom. Take this guy over to the parts washer and get her cleaned up. Pan doesn't look too terribly bad. I don't see any solid chunks. The magnets are pretty loaded up, but they always are on these things. You can see all that material on the magnet there. Like I said, it's pretty normal for these pans or for these transmissions, especially on the 3.7, because it doesn't have the power that that 3.5 does. It's constantly shifting back and forth between 5 and 6 on the highway, which just wreaks hell on that 5.6 clutch bag. We'll get these magnets cleaned up, get this pan surface nice and cleaned up, and clean up the transmission real nice, and get this old girl back on. Alright, we're back. Got the pan off. Sorry, I keep getting interrupted. By the way, I don't have the Rona. So we're going to take this 10mm bolt off, pull these lines back. There's going to be 2 rubber seals right there. We're going to purge all the fluid out of this cooler while we have the pan underneath here. This guy off of here. And of course the air compressor kicks on. Always when I'm trying to get the video up. Alright, let's purge that guy up. Alright, got a air nozzle here. This guy over here. Let's go down. Always a good fun time. So I'd love to be able to show you what happened real time, but I just wasn't able to. Had to get all the help I could just to hold this thing still while I got it off of there. So ultimately, these are the 2 front A-frame bolts. These are the bolt heads that came out the bottom, and somewhere here I set the bolt body. But ultimately what had to happen was I came in right below the actual piece of the K-member and chopped it right there with the Sawzall. And then, as you can see from the marks on the K-member, I came in just flush with the Sawzall and chopped through the bottom, which essentially leaves the bolt where it is, trapped in that sleeve there. I'm telling you, it is seized in there. It does not want to come out. You can beat it with a hammer all you want. All you're going to end up doing is messing up your whole K-member. The best way to get these out is to just get them to turn by trashing the bushing like this one did, and then just cut it out. There you go.
Okay, you good?
Yep, thanks, sir. Let's say you're wanting to reuse the sensors that was in your old catalytic converters and your old pipes. Chances are you put an O2 sensor socket on them. Unless you have a really good O2 sensor socket, it's just gonna round off your O2 sensor. What I do, since I'm cutting these things off anyway, stick them in the white vise. Don't grab them real tight, just grab them snug. And twist her on off there. You can do the same with this guy right up here. Alright, we're back. We have been waiting on parts, and just like the typical 10% rule with a Ford dealer, they didn't send 10% of it, but they were kind enough to charge me for them. So that's gonna keep me slowed down. We're going to get this pan surface clean. We've already cleaned up our gasket. Just gonna dab off all this old fluid off of here. We've already purged our cooler of all of its nasty fluid. You can't drain the torque converter on these things like you could the old Ford trucks, or old trucks in general. So no matter what you do, some of this old fluid is going to stay in the system. But we've got our gasket cleaned. We've got our pan cleaned. We got clean magnets in our pan. Got it nice and cleaned out. There was no kibbles and bits in there, so that's always good. You want to check inside your bore right here. I'll bring you in close. Let's see, get you in frame here. You want to check inside your bore here to make sure that nobody's left a ring from the filter before. Otherwise, when you double stack them with the new ring, it can push down real hard on this and cause this to crack and suck air and contaminated fluid and damage the transmission. So we're going to take some transmission fluid. We're going to clean this O-ring, put it up in there, and it doesn't like to stay there, so you got to be ready with the pan behind it to go behind it so the pan holds it up in there. Get these two bolts started and run them all the way in with to the bottom to where it holds the pan all the way against the gasket surface, and then you can take your time putting all the other ones in. So let's do that. Put it around the ring so we don't tear it going back in. We're going to get our pan and our gasket. Give this guy one final wipe off. Make sure there's no contaminants on there. I'm going to take this, have it ready to go, like I said, with two bolts. place there. Like I said, you can let go and it'll hang a bit, but it will not stay there for long. Alright, so I run these guys all the way in until they hold the pan flat against the gasket surface, so you know the filter isn't moving around on you, and then we can put in all the others. We're just going to run these in with the air ratchet and then they'll be torqued. We're just running them in until they touch. Alright, now with all our bolts in, just, you know, where they're touching, not tight, we're going to torque at 80 inch-pounds in a crisscross pattern. So, let me get you guys a better view. Now on this side, we're going to pull these back, we're going to clean up real good, clean inside the bores with a nice lint-free cloth. We're going to loop, make sure these guys aren't torn, they are reusable. Just inspect them, make sure they're good to go, clean them up, put some fresh Mercon LV on them, and then we'll put them back in the hole, and we'll put that bolt back in. I believe it's a 20 foot-pound torque, but I'll verify here in just a bit. Also, this bolt had Loctite on it before, so you're going to want to wire brush it off, put some fresh Loctite on there. So just for the ones who want to know, Ford says this bolt has to be thrown away. They say that it's a one-time use fastener, you're supposed to throw it away when you take it off. Its torque is 18 foot-pounds, by the way. I'm not doing that because it's not a torque to yield bolt. All it does is hold on the transmission lines, and I've got Loctite. Apparently they believe that their Loctite is comprised of a proprietary blend of 11 herbs and spices, and I'm just not playing that game, because if I replaced every freaking bolt that they say I need to throw away, I'd be waiting forever on parts on back order right now. So I'm reusing that one, but just for future note, basically anything on the suspension that they say is a one-time use fastener, I adhere to that. But small stuff like this that's stupid, that's not a torque to yield bolt, no, I'm cleaning it up and I'm putting more Loctite on it. So we'll get this guy torqued to 18 foot-pounds, and we'll put some fluid in it. There we go. I believe the service manual says we're going to put 5 quarts in before you can start it. I'm pretty sure I'll double check, but I got 4 quarts right here. Won't get her to drinking. Here's my setup is leaking. Excuse you. Alright, let's go get some more. I think you get the idea. So it's actually 3.5 quarts is an initial fill, allowing you to start it. So we got 4 quarts in there. We'll call that good for right now. Go ahead and put that in there, make sure we don't get any dirt in. And now it's time to throw those catalytic converters back in here. We got our new ones right over there. So we're going to have to bring Jack back into the equation. We're going to support our transmission again, remove him out, and then we'll be able to throw our converters up in there. You may not know it, but Jack's been over here talking shit this whole time. Jack's an asshole. Handy dandy block of wood. Alright. Just lift it up. Always drop the bolts. If you don't, they're going to think you're too perfect. And that's what they'll think. The astute of you may be noticing that there'll be no O2 sensors in this guy. It's for a very good reason. Because Ford hasn't gotten them to me yet. And I need to get as much done as I can. And, well, that's pretty much where it leaves me. I'm going to go ahead and put this thing up in there and then put the O2 sensors in. There's no problem with putting them on before you put it in there. Just make sure you don't smack them on anything. They are a delicate sensor. But everything's on back order from Ford right now. I've been waiting for 2 days for parts for this truck when they were supposed to be here last week. You can get a nut, but the bolt's on back order. It's always super fun to do by yourself. Get this side. Notice that we've got some shipping damage. That ain't no good at all. I have to straighten that guy back out. Hold on. Well, we got that flange straightened back up. There's nothing like spending $1,000 on a part that shows up already pre-broken. Good old Ford Parts. Customer service. They show up pre-broken, so you don't have to. Of course, then I can do that. Hadn't hurt it, did I? Nah, you're good. You're good. I'm just glad this thing's not super heavy. I would normally have some help. The whole office has the Rona. running. Please and thank you. But they forewent the please and thank you. All right. That was only half as horrible as it should be. Huh. Appear to be missing a bolt. That's always handy when it's in the air. Just gonna let that hang there. Find out where that little bugger went. Oh, there it is. You guys were hiding it. Now, I used to have help out here. I had this douchebag Marine, his name was Tyler, and he didn't want to hang around because they asked him to take a voluntary 10% pay cut, and he said, I'll just go make $4 more an hour. What a dick. Now he's working on diesel pumps and injectors, missing out on all this fun. Alright, there's our converters started. We're just going to tighten these bolts down. Probably pull the sticker off. Well, I say I'm going to. It'll just make an awful smell when it turns on. So, you're going to want to evenly tighten these guys. Meaning you don't want to run one side in tight and then tighten the other side. You guys looking good there. So these are going to be tightened to 30 foot-pounds. I want you to do the right side first. I don't know why, they just do. Maybe because that side's good luck to tighten first. Who knows? The right side's a little bit of a bear to get to. Some U-joints are going to be your friend here. Okay. It's not really doing the camera any justice if I stand right in front of the damn thing. And can you see what I'm trying to get on there? I'm going to get drop an extension. I have to get in front of you a bit. Oh, aren't these fun? These are so fun. Get it with just the socket. go on this one, but tighten these guys evenly. 30 foot-pounds. I'm going to need to do some wrangling, and you're not going to like me standing in front of the camera. And now we're going to tighten these guys equally, 30 foot-pounds as well. That one's going to need a U-joint as well. I'm sure this is the fun part to watch. Me jacking around with 3 extensions and a U-joint. I bet that's the fun part. Alright, feels like we're probably ready for the torque wrench. These are pretty snug down equally. Just for reference though, torque specs through a universal joint are about not reliable. So just make sure you get it good and snug. Take the U-joint off because I can get to it. This one without it. I think, maybe, possibly, yeah. All right, we're torqued down. Let's get the back part. Actually, let's go ahead and put this cross member back in so we can get Jack out of here staring at me with his judgy eyes. You'll want to take your transmission cross member bolts, give them a good cleaning, because I bet they're just as rusty as this one. Look at all that dust. Alright, got our bolts cleaned up. Probably spray out these nuts that are in here just in case there's any junk in them, which I'm sure there is. Clean up that mounting surface, because when you get dust in between two metal objects, when you tighten down, that dust will end up grinding away and you don't have the same torque spec as you did before. So, make sure it's clean. Same on the cross member. Let's give the guy a quick wipe down. It's not something you'd want to have loosen up on you. There's my computer again, making noise for no damn reason at all. Alright, and don't forget those two little arms. We're going to leave the front bolts out of it for right now. That way. We're going to leave the front bolts out of them, that way they can pivot out of the way for us to get the carriage back in. See, this one goes on. This part goes toward the inside. So this one will go on the left, I believe. And nice and clean. Make you look like a professional. Just look like it, mind you. All right. Sit there and look at the other one. We're just going to run them up, not tight. Just so it'll support the transmission. I have my impact on the lowest setting. I wasn't really sending it home there. Alright, now we can get Jack out of here. Alright, she's going back together. Next we'll bring the carriage up underneath here. I'm going to move you right there. And one thing I forgot to tell you guys in the beginning was technically you're supposed to, I'm going to get some light over here. You're supposed to take a grease pencil and mark for the carriage. But as you can see, it leaves little dimples from the carriage. As I'll take you over here and show you. There's little metal protuberances there. So what I do is I just line those back up into the little notch. The reason why is because the Ford Transit actually has no camber adjustment at all. The only thing you can technically adjust, I wouldn't call it adjusting, but influence is cross camber, and you do that by shifting the entire carriage left or right to equal out your camber left to right. So you want to make sure that it goes back in the same spot that it did. You can use a marker or something to mark it if you'd like, but you don't actually have to, because it leaves its own marks on the truck, and I just never really bothered with it. But it is in the service manual, so I figured I'd tell you. As you can see, we have our new A-frames from you-know-who, because, well, guess what? The Ford ones are on back order. Just like everything through Ford right now, because of this damn pandemic. Oh, by the way, the front ones have those little protuberances as well. So we got some Moogs on there. There's nothing wrong with them. I just tend to generally use genuine Ford parts, but they are significantly cheaper than the Ford parts. I think these ran me $130, and like the Ford ones are $198. But anyways, we got them loosely in there. We're going to clean out these holes where the old bolts were seized and we had to cut them out. Clean them all out real good. Get this nice and clean. Get it nice and clean on the body. That way it's got a nice clean mating surface. And we'll get this thing stabbed back up in there. Alright, we've got our O2 sensors in. Torque those guys down to 30 foot-pounds. And now it is time to get that carriage back up in here. Alright, let's try to make this nice and easy. We just have our control arms loosely in here. The front bolts have not been tightened. Those don't get tightened until there's some weight on the front tires. Alright, so the first part that's going to make contact with anything is going to be that steering shaft. So you want to kind of keep an eye on it. Make sure you're not knocking on anything. Basically guide it up and into the hole, and then everything else kind of take care of itself. Just like prime. Go ahead and let your ball joints go into the A-frames. Way far forward over here. And we're tilted. Let's go some more. Alright, we're gonna get close. Get those studs in the front lined up. Give it a wiggle and a shake. Always got to give it a wiggle and a shake. Alright, both ball joints are in. Both studs are in the front. Steering shaft's going up just fine. And we're basically seated up against the vehicle now. Alright, there we go. Go ahead and get the nuts started up front just so this thing can't fall and kill us. Like I said before, we're not going to get this stuff on the threads. We're just going to put it, the anti-seize, just going to put that on the shank of the bolt where it's most likely going to seize. Man, if you've ever worked with this stuff, once you touch it, it's everywhere. Like freaking stripper glitter. There's just no getting it off you. Alright, we're going to run these guys up by hand at first. started. Same way with this guy. Right now I'm just pushing through the hole, I'm not really threading. Now it's up against the nut. And now she's threading. Alright, that one's, I believe, started. Should be. Yeah. So, we're going to make sure that our carriage, see if I can give you guys a better vantage. We're going to make sure that our carriage is completely on the spot that it was before. So basically you shouldn't be able to see any shiny metal, and when you give it a shake, as you kind of snug them up, those little protuberances are going to fall into the dimples that were made on the body, and you'll know the carriage is back exactly where it was before. This guy out of the way. So I got to wondering, because the service manual, I remember, did call for discarding the rear bolts right back here, which that wasn't an option with us. This piece was never an option. But it does not call for the discarding of these front bolts, which I thought was kind of odd, seeing that they're a nylock. But yeah, Ford says you don't have to get rid of them. Of all the nuts and bolts they tell you to get rid of, it's not one of them. But the torque on these guys is 130 foot-pounds. Again, I want to stress that you make sure that you got this carriage lined up where it was before. Whether you used grease pencil or you're just using the dimples that it made before. But you want it exactly where it was before. And these rear bolts are going to get torqued to 184, and then 180 degrees. Eat your Wheaties for those. And now, show you guys. You're going to go 180 degrees. Luckily, it's very easy to do 180 on a hex head. So you want to mark your hex head on one side on the 12 o'clock position so you know which one it is. And then you want to come around over here to the 6 o'clock position and you want to mark its spot. And now, because it's a hex head and it's got 180 degree points, you're just going to spin that side around to over here and you've gone 180 degrees. Or you can use a torque angle meter, or you can do it this way and not have to bother with it. With that part done, we can run our power steering hoses back on through. Now remember that the one with the clamp, the spring clamp, not the bolt-on fitting, goes to the power steering pump, goes through this cross member. We'll run this guy up and through. He's got a bolt right here which secures him. This guy actually goes right through here. Make sure it gets straightened out. That's not kinked. And this guy runs up and then through here. Keeper right here that it snaps onto. This one, these two hoses snap together, and like I said, that one gets secured right there. We'll get this guy put back in the power steering pump. You want to make sure that O-ring is nice and clean and it's not damaged. If so, replace it. Slide over here. See if you guys can see okay. Clean up the mating surface real well. Pop them back in there. Go grab the torque spec on that guy. The torque on this guy is 106 inch-pounds, and for this bracket over here, if you didn't just snug it, if you want to know, its torque is 18 foot-pounds, or just snug the damn thing. Surprised they didn't tell me to get rid of this nut since it's an eye lock. Alright. Give me that back. Next, we're just going to put on this hose here so you guys can see. I'm definitely about to take a shower. Come on, get up there. I need some needle nose. There we go. I hope y'all got a good shot of that. Just put our... Alright, we got this nice and clean now. We got these guys nice and cleaned, since we're reusing these. So we have got new tie rod nuts and ball joint nuts. Both have to be replaced when they are removed. They are one-time use fasteners. And like I said, if it goes on the suspension, I strictly adhere to the whole one-time use fastener thing. And again, you want to make sure that any penetrating oil or anything like that you use to get this on there, you get out. Alright, I'm going to have to put you down, but you get it. We're putting that guy back in there, and I'll give you the torque specs. Alright, remember how I said the stud has a little hex head on it on the top? You use that to help hold it still while you run this nut down. And the torque on these is 59 foot-pounds, and the torque on the ball joint is 159 foot-pounds. I have a very aggressive nylon lock nut on them. I'm just going to snug that guy. $59 and then $159. $159. All right, do the same to the other side. We still got to put on our sway bar end link nut. Don't forget to hook up your O2 sensor again. Hooked! Make sure your wheels are in the straight ahead position, because our our steering wheel is still in the straight ahead position. Now they might be off from each other a little bit. No, that's pretty much dead on. It slips right on. And that makes sure that your steering angle sensor shouldn't need to be recalibrated. So we'll slip this boot on the right way. I was just showing you the wrong way there, didn't I? No, I was showing you the right way. I was teaching you how to doubt yourself, is what I was doing. I slipped over these bolts here. What a stubborn little bugger. Alright, I gotta use both hands to do this.